Thank you, Dr. Rockout, for me doing these videos, for giving me the good idea and for making it happen. An interesting thing about this week's parsha is it's not just this week's parsha; it's the whole Parshas Devorim. That means that the 4 books before were things that happened, and this whole book, the 5th book of the Torah, is just a repeat. And Moshe Rabbeinu talking to the Jewish people. One of the most important things that he does now is repeat the stories so we can understand what's going on. We can understand how we could fix ourselves for the future. That means that one of the things he does is he gives tochacha to the Jewish people. He gives them rebuke. It's obviously a very light rebuke, but it's a rebuke that from Moshe Rabbeinu, one of the greatest people ever to live. He was the greatest prophet ever to live. So obviously, because he was such a great prophet, obviously even this rebuke was from Hashem. So the question is, what was he doing with the rebuke? What was the goal of the rebuke? Why rebuke now? What's he waiting for the last day of his life? And so some of the answers to some of the questions are like this. That one of the reasons why Moshe Rabbeinu waited until the last day of his life to rebuke is because what happens is when someone rebukes somebody else, let's say I rebuke you, right? I tell you you're doing something wrong. 2 things happen now. What happens is that I feel bad and I'm not sure how to, if I overdid it or whatever story is. The other thing is you feel bad and you think maybe I was a tough guy. I shouldn't have been so tough on you. So what happens is now Moshe Rabbeinu's job as the leader of the Jewish people was to teach us the Torah. All of us, all the Torah we ever learned came from Moshe Rabbeinu, right? So the only way for Moshe Rabbeinu to keep his job as the teacher of Klal Yisrael, the teacher of the Jewish people of the Torah, is through the fact that he didn't rebuke us, that he never looked at us bad. We never heard rebuke from him. So then he could keep on teaching us because we never have this feeling of, okay, I can't walk this way because he's going to rebuke me. He sees into me. He sees everything that I did wrong. So Moshe Rabbeinu had to wait till the last day of basically right before he died, for the 10 months or whatever it is before he died. The reason for that is because then it needs to be done, and then we're not going to see Moshe Rabbeinu anyways anymore. So we're not going to not learn. We're not going to not grow just because of the fact that we got rebuked from Moshe Rabbeinu, because Moshe Rabbeinu is not around anymore. So it was something that was needed to be done, but it needs to be done all the way at a point where there's a relationship where the person won't feel bad and we won't feel terrible about what went on. And obviously we know also that all of his rebukes were in a nice way, in a way that we can take it. And it was something, not that I'm rebuking somebody, God forbid, it's a lesson. God forbid when you rebuke somebody to on something they did, you're a terrible guy, you did X, Y, and Z. The rebuke is not for the past, the rebuke is for the future. That's one of the lessons. The rebuke is that you did wrong. Okay, it happens, people do wrong. But this is how the way Moshe Rabbeinu put it out there, this is how you fix yourself that you won't do this in the future. It means like this. It's not like, I spoke about, it's not, when somebody does something wrong, just in Judaism, the belief is that everything's fixable. That means that when I was a kid, my mother read us Humpty Dumpty. And my mother was obviously in her 20s. I was a 3-year-old kid, so my mother must have been, my older sister was 5. My mother was 19, I think, when she had her. So my mother was about 24 years old. And she's reading Humpty Dumpty, and she just figured out that the reason why Humpty Dumpty couldn't be put back together again because he was an egg. And it was like an eye-opening fact to her that Humpty Dumpty was an egg. But we have to know that Humpty Dumpty is an egg. There are certain situations that are like an egg. But the fact is that doesn't make us bad that we did those things. It's all as long as we're working towards something positive. But also what that does is that teaches us that just to fix the future. The idea is to fix the future, not to worry about the past, the broken egg, and so on and so forth. That means that, so how does it work? I thought some things aren't fixable, but Hashem gave us, really nothing should ever be fixable. Really, if the world worked in the way that we think it works, in the energies that we believe, that we understand, not that we believe, the energies we understand, anytime someone did sin, a lightning should strike down from heaven and destroy them. Why? Because everything positive in the world is in addition to the world, is building the world and helping the world move forward. Anything negative is burning the world. So anything negative should automatically come a light. It's other parts of nature should automatically, because of all the intrinsic parts of nature, should automatically come and defend God for the negative that's going to happen or happened. And it should automatically strike us, or strike the item, or strike whatever, and make it disappear. So what did God do? God knew that we're going to sin, because there's no person in the world that walks this. Chazal say, there's no person that walks this earth that doesn't sin. If he's a person, he sins. It's impossible otherwise. So what did Hashem make? He gave us his present. It's actually the greatest present ever. The greatest present is called tshuva. That means I'm not sure exactly how tshuva works, because again, it's a present. There are things that we can understand from God are just understandable, and then there are things that are presents. The presents we don't really understand. We can vaguely get the concept, but we don't really anything that's a present. You don't understand, because it's not supposed. If it was understood, then it wouldn't have to be a present. It would just be something that we understand. So it's a present. The idea of tshuva. The idea of tshuva is that there's two sides to the idea of tshuva. One side to the idea of tshuva is, let's say you do something bad and you do a sin, God forbid, and you feel really bad about it. And so what happens is that gets undone by the fact that I did tshuva, that I got. Why? Because what it did was, until now, I was a human being. God forbid to say Hashem's over here, but let's say in my pea brain mind to understand that Hashem's over here where my top hand is, and usually I'm walking over here right where we are, and then I make a sin, and I happen to the sin. Let's say a sin means let's say I'm walking this high, and a sin makes it that I'm walking this low instead. But the second I feel bad for the sin that I did, I move closer to God. Now I'm closer to God, because now I understand more what goes on in the world, that everything God controls, and then I have to listen to Hashem. But there's even a better way, obviously. There's a step that's better. That's from feeling bad. But the other step is, I can turn to God, which we spoke about a little bit last week, and say, Hashem, everything that I do is all because of you. You do it. If you didn't want me to do something, if I wasn't supposed to do something, I wouldn't be able to. That means, for instance, one of the analogies that I gave this past week was, people think that if Hashem didn't protect me, Hashem didn't make me exist, what would happen? For a moment Hashem stopped making me exist, what would happen? I would die. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. What would happen is, if God made me not exist, did not make me exist every moment, then I wouldn't die, but I would disappear. And not only would I disappear, every picture that you have of me in a camera would disappear, and as if I was never in the picture. So I would unexist, and I would disintegrate. There would be no remnant of who I was or who I am. So the idea is that what I say to myself, instead of saying, "Oh, I feel so terrible about the thing I did," I say, God, Hashem, you made me do this sin, and for some reason I don't know what the reason is, but obviously because of that sin, you made me move closer to you. For some reason, this was going to make me move closer to you, and I feel bad about that sin. Obviously, it's not a sin that I want to keep on doing, and I just want to be closer to you without the sin. And God says, that's great, now you're closer to me. Now you're much closer to me. So there's two different ways to deal with it. So that's really when Moshe Rabbeinu did the rebuke, it wasn't because of the past. He wasn't looking, let's make the Jewish people feel bad. I'm going to die anyways, let them feel bad. God forbid. Never. But what it was, that it was trying to teach them, here's the way. What he was doing is, like if you really want to teach somebody well, you have to first understand them, and second of all, what you have to do is you have to explain to them what they're about, and they have to really understand that, and then you have to explain to them how do you do it better. So that's what you have to do. That's the way to do it, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is doing when he rebukes. He's understanding the Jews, saying, "I understand you, the Jewish people. This is what happened. These are the facts. This is why the facts happen." And this is how you can do it better in the future. And through that, that's what real rebuke is. That's what the right rebuke is. That's the rebuke that the Torah wants. That's the rebuke of Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe the greatest prophet of all time. And that's the rebuke, obviously, of Yaakov Avinu, our forefather Yaakov. Before he died, he did the same thing. And however it works. That's for Parshas Vayechi, Mitzvah Shem. So I bless us all that we should all have the ability to hear rebuke, but we should have not to just to hear rebuke, to hear what rebuke is really trying to get to us. And we should be able to look into ourselves and figure out what we're about and fix it. Obviously, fix it. We should fix ourselves so well that we should be able to feel comfortable coming into El, where we look at all the bad things that you do. And then obviously the new year would obviously be a tremendously more successful year than we ever had before. Hashem should bless us with a wonderful Shabbos. Good Shabbos, everybody. Thank you for watching.